All right, Gens fans, welcome to the first, I guess you can call it episode of what we're doing this season. Instead of having a little baseball, obviously with the COVID-19 that we're dealing with, we're not able to play ball this year, but we're going to still get some content, and what better way than to start with our GM, our head man, really. Without him, there are no Waynesboro Generals. It's our GM, Tyler Hoffman. Tyler, how are you, man?
Good, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So for those of you that don't know, Tyler's wife, Blair, is expecting really any day now, right, Tyler? It's you said 13 days. Is that correct?
Yeah, 13 days. So we're on the countdown, and she's hoping sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and you don't want to see a season canceled because of such a pandemic. But if it were to be canceled, I feel like this is a pretty decent summer for it to be canceled.
Yeah, it worked out a little bit. We'll be able to spend some more time together and kind of balance that load. That was something myself and her especially were concerned about, but we were going to find a way to make it work. But either way, it's going to be good, and we'll be back here next summer.
So now, are you still at work, or you guys remote?
I am. I'm working. Was working part schedule at the office and then part remotely, and now I've kind of gone full remotely. Due with the baby on the way and trying to take as much precaution as possible and so forth. So that's been a little challenging, but we're going to make it work, and we'll get through it.
Cool, man. All right, so let's hop into it. We'll go all the way back to your playing days as a catcher at Bridgewater College, and now you went to Fort Defiance High School as well, correct?
That's correct.
And that was coached by Coach Spots.
Vic Spots, yeah. I played for Vic Spots.
Was that a determining factor in going to Bridgewater?
Obviously, yeah. I mean, that had a lot to do with, his son, Ben, being the assistant at the time at Bridgewater. I actually thought I was going to be a college basketball player out of high school, and went to Mary Washington for a semester in Fredericksburg, and quickly realized I wasn't cut out to be a college basketball player. So that was good. That's part of my story and experience. But then obviously that connection with Coach Spots and so forth led me back to Bridgewater, and an opportunity to kind of just prove what I could do, and no promises made when I came back there. And it turned into a great 4 years, and a great decision all the way around.
Absolutely. And so now you got to be excited to see Coach Spots and now the head guy at Bridgewater, right?
Yeah, it's been great. And we get the opportunity to chat every so often and go up there and see those guys. And, I think he's going to do great things. And Coach Kendall, who was there when I was, obviously had a storied career and was another great role model for me, and somebody I speak to as often as I can. But anyways, yeah, they're going to do a great job. And I think he's, was having a successful season before all this took place. So I think it's only up from there for those guys.
All right, and a lot of people might not know this either, but your senior year that you were actually playing, you were named the GM of the Gens. Did you have any other involvement with the Gens before that, or was it just kind of a fresh start?
No, so I did, and at the time, the Galdens were managing all the front office stuff for the Generals, and I was working for them, as I still am now at Mathers Construction, but I was working for them at the time in the summers and so forth, and just had gone full time. And basically, with the coaching change, I was kind of the last one left that had a substantial amount of college connection just because of my playing career. So that led into one thing led to the next, and I had previous summer spent some time doing stats and a lot of the duties that you're doing now. So just kind of however I can help out. And, so I was familiar and had been around and knew everybody. And so it was kind of a natural fit in that standpoint. But obviously it kind of tied into my college playing season too, which was quite unique. It was a definitely unique situation, but it's been a great experience.
All right, so, I mean, you're going to school, you're playing ball, and you're doing full-time GM duties. Like, how challenging was that? What were some of the challenges you had to go through to get that stuff done?
So, it was definitely challenging. I probably I wouldn't say made fun of, but my roommates gave me a hard time. I was always on the phone. It didn't matter what was going on. And at that time, I didn't know any different and really didn't, have anything else going on. I mean, we were playing baseball. We were all just hanging out. So that was kind of life at the senior year in college. And but the crazy thing was that I didn't think, at least the coaches and the guys I was recruiting, they didn't know any different, and they didn't know who I was as far as, I got a 22-year-old guy that's playing college baseball, recruiting the teams for that summer. So they didn't know any different. And, I just went with what I thought made sense, and I really didn't know any different. And, when that whole summer finished, it was kind of crazy, and we ended up winning the league. And I don't know, it was, just kind of the golden horseshoe kind of thing. But anyways.
Yeah, a little humble brag there, I guess. A little first year in the league, we decided.
Yeah, no, that was, and again, I had no, and honestly, looking back, it may segue into some of your other stuff, but looking back, it was, I had a lot of guys that was a really good mix of D2, D1 type guys, and the type of players they were, and guys that just were trying to prove them. They were a lot like myself. I mean, we were, I was a D3 guy, and then we had a good mix of really, really, really talented big D1 guys, and so they meshed really well. And every summer's so different. It doesn't, you don't ever know. I mean, on paper you can be really good, and it just not click. And that summer was not that those guys weren't good on paper, but it just clicked, and it worked out. And it was more of a cool story probably than anything. And it was a really special group. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's really cool. So speaking of maybe your teammates giving you a hard time, like, did you recruit any of the guys that you played with or maybe against?
Let's see. Going back, yeah. I mean, Hunter Hensley was a guy that actually, him and I split some time catching my senior year. He ended up coming in, and I can't recall if it was that summer or not. I believe it may have been, but he came in and kind of on some temp duties, played the first start of the season that year. And so I had some guys that, I knew,
right.
But it wasn't a whole lot. It really just didn't mesh with us not being able to take seniors. A lot of those guys that were my class, obviously I didn't have any involvement with in summer ball. It didn't work that way. It kind of would have been pretty cool if it would have. But I mean, I was familiar with some of the guys that I recruited from the ODAC and stuff like that. But outside of that, nobody that I had really close ties with.
Okay, so let's get right into it then. And take us through the process of building your team. How early do you start? What are some of the things that you might look for? How do you build your team?
So the process, the process starts a lot earlier than probably most people expect, and it gets earlier every year. And I think that's one of the kind of crazy things about summer baseball, and probably one of the things I could say I wouldn't say I dislike, but I wish would kind of change. I mean, some of these teams, and especially you go from the Cape down. I mean, they're recruiting team. They're putting together the next summer's team before their summer's even over.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy. And these schools are placing incoming freshmen that have never even stepped foot on campus, or technically aren't even a student there at the time before they even get to school.
Yeah.
So, and have no track record and all that stuff. So, again, that's where relationships come in. But typically that starts in the fall. If we finish up the summer in August, beginning of August, I typically try to obviously take the rest of that month off and start getting feelers out by September and so forth. And, previously I had probably recruited almost our entire roster. When I first did this, recruited our entire roster in the fall. And you can go and get 30 to 40 guys, and then because of attrition, you're going to lose a third of them by the time the summer comes. That, that type of stuff. And now I've kind of gone to the opposite a little bit. I probably recruit half of it in the fall and get some of those guys that they're from relationships that they're going to send me names that I know I trust. And then the other half is that a lot of those guys are going to say, especially their top end arms, look, we're just going to replace the rest of these guys in the spring because they're replacing these guys in the fall. And then you're always getting that call in April, May. hey, we're going to shut him down. Well, it wouldn't have been any advantage to them placing him in the first place, knowing he's going to be their Saturday guy. So they've kind of helped the summer leagues a little bit in that sense. And I always like to say I've picked up better guys in the spring than I have a lot of times in the fall, just because of, a lot of times it's upperclassmen that are available. Whatever the situations may be, if something in the Cape didn't work out and the guy's now available.
Yeah.
So all that's kind of changed in my philosophy. So I would say, we carry 30 guys. I probably sign anywhere from 15 to 20 in the fall, and then kind of fill the rest in the spring. And then as things shake out and we lose a guy here and there, kind of go from there. But I don't fret it as much as I used to. I used to lose sleep all the time over, this and that. I lose sleep more over, being over 30 guys and, me having to make that call and tell a kid that he can't come. And, I don't really feel that it's right for us to cut a kid and me put my name on him. And then all of a sudden he's not good enough for me, but he was in the fall. So I try to be really careful with that and value those relationships.
So how far along were we when COVID-19 struck?
Pretty much done. We were filling in some pieces and everything obviously changed with the summer season or the spring season being canceled. Guys became available that were like, holy, this kind of took it back a little bit to the way the Valley League, I would say, used to be, just because when there were only 5 or 6 leagues in the country.
Right.
You had guys available that were, weekend guys that would have thrown 80 to 90 innings, and everything was changing, and what the speculation was going to be with whether seniors were going to get a year back, and then whether, what the Cape was going to do, if they were going to take upperclassmen now rather than all these freshmen and sophomores. Now those guys would be available, so it's this huge trickle down effect, and so it was really kind of crazy. And it kind of goes back to, like, do you drop guys to pick up these guys, and how do you weigh that, and is it really the best spot for them? Because now is their playing time going to be cut from an upperclassman that's going to be, there was a starting left fielder at a major SEC school, like, that stuff happened, and it was kind of crazy. And and then we were right in the middle of it, and all of it kind of just stopped. So in the end of the day, it was somewhat of a relief that we didn't have to balance all of that. And but as far as the roster is concerned, I think everybody in the league would have said, "Wow, this was going to be probably one of the best summers in the history of the Valley League if this thing would have gone off." So, it was disappointing, but in the end, I think the decision that was made was, in the best of the players, families, the league, and itself.
All right. So before we let you go, is there somebody that comes to mind throughout your time as the GM that might bring up a funny story or something that at least gives you a little chuckle?
Yeah. So, and I hate that I can't remember the kid's name, but I will tell you that and I believe it was, you were a part of the team. It was a year or two ago, the group we had, it was the summer John Jeans was our head coach. The kids that brought the snapping turtles from the retaining pond. Who was it?
Garrett Huston, yeah.
All right, there you go. I showed up one day, and there were all these snapping turtles, and they were massive, like huge snapping turtles they've gotten from a retaining pond in a subdivision.
Yeah.
And they had them in the back of their truck, and so then they were everywhere on the field, and so then I think I went on the field, and they were probably trying to set me up, so and next thing I know, I turn around, there's a snapping turtle laying behind me. And anyway, so it was one of those stories, like, first off, like, how in the world did you get these things? And then second, it was cool. Something I won't forget. And, but yeah, that kind of stuff, that's the stuff I'll miss. That's the stuff that I think everybody will miss in the summer ball, like those relationships and guys and the time together and the funny stories and the stuff like that makes those experiences pretty cool and brings guys together. Stuff like that'll bring a kid from middle of nowhere Georgia and a kid from the inner city California to be best friends. So it's pretty neat. That's what it's all about. But Gens will be back next summer, and we'll give it a run again.
Sounds good, man. Hey, Tyler, thank you for taking the time out. I know some Gens fans will love to hear this interview. Really enjoyed it myself. I know you got something to do at 10, so we'll let you roll out of here, man. But again, thanks for your time.
You're good, Ty. Appreciate all you're doing, man. Thanks a bunch.
Absolutely, bro.